Okay, so LAI Games, we're a developer and manufacturer of arcade games, and we sell these games to arcades and entertainment venues all around the world. We've been around for a very long time, and we have a reputation for innovation within our industry. And our focus is really on unique, rewarding, and accessible gameplay experiences for players. And as of recently, we're expanding our business and looking at other areas, and including consumer games. So arcade games. Every time I speak to someone new about what we do and I say I make arcade games, I always get the same questions. Do you mean like Xbox Live Arcade or mobile arcade games, Apple Arcade? I mean real physical arcade games that we ship to these brick and mortar arcades all around the world. And these, our biggest market is the US, and they're what we sort of refer to as entertainment destinations. So they're usually a really big footprint, big arcade, an anchor attraction, something like bowling or axe throwing or go-karts, and they'll usually be combined with a restaurant, full service bar. And their target market is usually like a group of young professionals looking for somewhere to go after work. So our company and my team, we take, so we'll start by coming up with gameplay ideas, and then we'll develop them through to production. So that if it's something like Let's Bounce here, sort of a physical electrical game, rapid prototyping will mean fabricating something out of wood, something cheap and quick that demonstrates the core concept of the game, something that illustrates to us that the game's that has potential and it's got a spark of something fun. And then throughout the development process, we'll assess various things that are important at that stage. Early on, it might be around technical feasibility, cost, but always ensuring that gameplay spark remains throughout. So here we've got sort of various stages of mock-up and prototype through to the final arcade cabinet. And so my team manages that whole process until we pass it off to production. And so we own a manufacturing facility where we produce all of our arcade games. We do the cabinets, the harnessing, the software, everything. So they're manufactured and then boxed up, and we ship them to customers and distributors and our sales offices around the world. So the types of games we make, I refer to them as like rewarding and accessible. And Hypershoot, our basketball game, is a good example of that, I think. So I was in an arcade one day watching a couple of kids playing basketball, and two of them are standing side by side playing the same basketball game, and they took 10, 15 shots and they didn't sink a single basket. And the hoop's moving back and forth, and it's only slightly larger than the ball. I'm thinking, why do we make these games like so hard? What if we make the act of shooting a ball and sinking a basket really, really easy and rewarding and juicy, and then we find other ways of adding a layer of challenge and mastery for people who want to compete. So on the left, you can see like a typical basketball game. We extended the playfield because we wanted to have that feeling of like making a shot and having the ball float through the air before it hits the basket. We made the hoop a lot bigger, which helped, but it wasn't enough. So we tilted the hoop forward, which made that a lot easier. Gave you a bigger target that you could sort of visualize and hit. And so the act of throwing a single shot and hitting the basket was really quite easy. And then we wanted to make that really, really juicy and fun. So we added this light chaser, this tunnel that sits on top of the playfield. And when you throw the ball, there are sensors that detect that. They play like a nice throwing sound effect. The lights chase the ball as it goes down the playfield, creating like a meteor effect. And when the ball goes through the hoop explodes with light, and it's a nice sound effect, and it just feels really, really good to do. And it doesn't matter whether you're good at basketball or you suck at basketball, taking that shot, making that shot is really easy. And then we find other ways to add that level of mastery. So in the case of Hypershoot, the hoop has a cooldown. You have a very small window of opportunity to shoot a second basket and hit that, and you'll get more points per basket. So while sinking a single shot is easy, the challenge comes from sinking consecutive shots really quickly and really consistently. So we make a pretty wide variety of games. So Hypershoot we spoke about, Let's Bounce. Outnumbered's a video game. It's a target shooting game, and it's quite interesting. We have a companion app as well. So when you play the game in an arcade, you earn an in-game currency, and that currency synchronizes with your phone, and through the app you can forge unique weapons and compete on leaderboards and unlock a bunch of stuff. And then when you log back into the game, you can use those weapons that you've forged in the arcade game. And lastly, so a couple of years ago, we launched Virtual Rabbids. It was a collaboration with Ubisoft, and it's a virtual roller coaster type game. It has 6 stages. It has motion base, which synchronizes with the experience. It really feels like you're on a roller coaster. Vive headsets and wind effects. And at the time, this was the world's first unattended virtual reality attraction. So, operators would have to buy these big virtual installations that cost a lot of money, not just to purchase, but to operate, because you have to pay someone to stand there and look after it, make sure that everything's safe and secure, educate people on how to use it. So for us, we engineered this platform for people who have never played VR before. They can walk up, they can credit the game like any arcade game, they can onboard themselves, play the game, and offboard themselves without the support of an operator or anyone showing them what to do. This was basically defined a new genre within arcades, and you'll see a lot of them around the world and in Singapore as well. So the games themselves, once they're developed, we sell them typically through trade events like this one. So this is IAPA. This is a trade show in Orlando, in America. And you typically have a big booth like this. We'll have a bunch of games on display, and then we'll have like operators and distributors, and they'll bring their kids, and everyone will come along and play the games. And this is how the majority of our operators and arcades around the world make their buying decisions, through trade shows like this. And Arcade Legends. So we've started looking at the consumer games market, and we're really excited about the future of virtual reality. We think it's a great technology, great ecosystem, and so this is our first consumer game, Arcade Legend. We debuted it recently on Steam's Next Fest festival, and it'll launch sometime early next year. But what we found was our arcade games, being really sort of physical, translate really well into a virtual space. So our first game here, you inherit a abandoned arcade, and it's up to you to restore it. You can customize it, expand it, and you acquire real arcade games, put them in your venue. It'll attract patrons, it'll come and play, and you'll earn more money, you can buy more games, and you can play the games yourself as well. So you can customize an arcade and invite your friends and play multiplayer. So this just debuted, and will launch early next year. So if you're interested, you can check it out on YouTube or on Steam. Okay, development. So our studio's in One North, and it's quite a unique development space, I guess. Because we have such a diverse range of people on the team, and we do everything from designing, all the software development, but also all of the cabinet design, engineering. We fabricate prototypes, so we need quite a unique space. We designed the venue to look like a barcade. Not everyone has the opportunity to go to America and check out arcades there, so we want to sort of bring the vibe to our workspace. So we have the desks and everything, but we also have like a breakout area. We've got arcade games, a bar area. We have a game testing room, so behind that back wall is where we'll have a bunch of mock-ups and prototypes. We're testing things, gameplay testing, and downstairs we have a workshop where we can do all of our fabrication. So our office is never this neat. This was taken early, and it's quite an interesting environment. It's a hive of activity. We have people working on a bunch of different stuff. You'll see people working on things with motors and mechanisms and lights, and people wiring things up, or people making rapid prototypes in software. And so, if you walk to the kitchen to get yourself a drink, you'll probably see 2 or 3 different things that pique your curiosity. So it's a work environment that really rewards curiosity. So the team, So despite the fact that we have quite a diverse team in the engineering and the fabrication and stuff, the development team is pretty standard. I mean, we have programmers, artists, designers. We work in Unity. It's an agile development environment. We run sprints, hold retros, we use Jira. So the software development side is pretty typical. With one caveat, all of our software developers, we can't, it's not feasible to have the arcade game that they're working on sitting next to every workstation. So typically we'll develop, we'll build what we call a dev rig. So if you look at those top two images, it'll be like a distilled down, a small form factor version of the arcade game. It'll have all of the hardware, all of the inputs and outputs, and LEDs and switches, everything that the developer needs so that they can put next to their desk that enables them to develop the software and test it on the actual game hardware. And if that's interesting to anyone, we actually do have job openings at the moment. So check out LAIGames.com if you're interested. Thanks. That's it from me. Any questions from anyone?
Hi, Shannon. Hi, thank you so much for sharing. I've also shared your company's website on our social medias as well.
Ah, cool. Thank you very much.
Let me just take a look. Hold on a moment. Okay. I think we don't have much questions, but if there's any, I'll let you know again. So sorry, we're also a bit back on time, So thank you so much for sharing so much about LAI Games, and yep, see you in the next one. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.